Hello there in Facebook land.
Hello!
Hello! This is Bob from Lapbook, and with me I've got Luke Pitt, and today's special guest, Luke Jones, also known as Tink, from Tank Larp!
Tank Larp.
Yep, Tank Larp.
So Luke, do you want to kick off with a question to Tink?
Yes, I will. What on earth is Tank Larp? I've just tried to make sense of that. Right, you have to know that with Cyberpunk, it's one of those things that, you sit there and you go, no. And I thought that was pretty bad. And then I read your website and I thought, oh my God, you've got Braveheart right next to Fidel Castro. You've then got a First World, Second World War kind of person holding a sword. Then I suddenly realised that Fidel Castro has actually got elven armour on. And I can't make head nor tail of this. Well, I don't know. Maybe I'm a bit old-fashioned or just getting a little bit old for this, but I kind of need continuity. So my first question has to be, what on earth is Tank Larp?
Okay, so effectively what we were doing was we decided to run another system after our first one that we did. We did like little day-long Cyberpunk LARPs indoors, kind of very high competitive stuff, and we wanted to take it back and make it very low rules, high immersion, just keep that kind of like emphasis on roleplay. So we were looking around for sites and stuff like that, and we got this little Pinterest board going, and then we found loads of these images of like time clash kind of images, so like World War One and Two trenches with samurai and Vikings in like long Russian coats and stuff like that, and we really liked the aesthetic. So we kind of like started looking into sites that we could do this with, like little bits of writing in the background. And then just outside of where we live, and we had no idea this even existed until recently, was this place called Armageddon. And they'd run these kind of like tank driving experiences, and we were like, so we're trying to do a kind of like a World War One/2 kind of era LARP, and there's places with actual tanks just outside of our city, and we were like, this is too good to be true. So we wrote this kind of like Dark Age diesel punk time clash kind of system, whereby we were able to actually incorporate the tank battles that they do in the car, the whole tank driving experiences, in with the game. Then the site turned around and said, we have an actual unturreted APC we could lend you for ferrying the players to and from the paintball site that we have on site. And it was just like, LARP miracle just happened right in front of us, and it was like too good to be true, and so we immediately just jumped on it. Then we wrote the system. So we effectively wrote the system around the site instead of the other way round.
Okay.
Which is normal, but you've got tanks.
Absolutely. So talk me through a scenario. What's the storyline?
Okay, so the storyline is basically it starts off sci-fi and then kind of goes into low fantasy. So the start of the plot line is that this ancient race of like 20-foot androgynous beings brought humans over to this continent as a kind of like a workforce kind of like colony. Yeah. And they set up this infrastructure to mine this semi-magical element out of the ground that kept all of their space, their ships flying in the sky and stuff like that. And they gave us the infrastructure to be able to like survive of our own accord. So it was very kind of like work camps scattered throughout this continent for very specific reasons. Then one day, about 100 years before game time, the ancients just upped and left. And like in one night there was a massive exodus, and they just kind of like left us to it. All the technology stopped working, and then we kind of like got forcibly regressed to this kind of like dark age era. At which point, like some of the strongest of the mining colonies started experimenting with using it kind of like a proper magical capitalist. So they started doing the typical alchemy kind of stuff with summoning stones and all that kind of stuff. And until recently, there was a breakthrough, and there's basically like very recently there was a magical industrial revolution, and then recently the technology that they left behind started becoming more usable to us, which is where we picked up from like the magic tech equivalent of a diesel engine. Then there was like arms races and wars all over the continent, and there was massive ravagement for resources. And then the crux event happened about 30 years before game time, which was like the mechanical horde appeared in the lower continent, and they started ravaging the place. A lot of place a lot of like storylines like Star Trek and all that kind of stuff have the Borg and these kind of like mechanical enemies, but they don't kind of put into context the fact that some machines don't need to stop, they don't need to consolidate territories or anything like that. They're like a wildfire. So this kind of like mechanical horde spread through the continent, and the capital city, which kind of kept to itself, triggered a doomsday device which made them and the mechanical horde just blink out of existence. At which point, all of their really high-tech weapons were just left scattering around the world. So now these two factions that were just either side of the Centran forces are now having this kind of like territory boom to try and get into the capital first.
Ooh.
So it's effectively like a turf war to try and get towards the entrance to the capital to unlock its secrets.
Right. Okay. And that's very much outdoorsy?
Very outdoorsy, yeah. This is typical kind of like World War One in the trenches, kind of very combat kind of orientated.
Sorry, you just said typical then, and I'm not convinced you can use that here. Nothing you've just said is typical.
Yeah. Typical of outdoor events is that we're doing all of the combat in very foresty areas or that kind of stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
So who are the out of the genre of LARPers that you get?
Yeah.
Who seem to be attracted to this? Have you got like medieval reenactors, or are they just LARPers, or are they just steampunk? Or
we are getting we're getting a healthy mix of everything. We have World War One reenactors. We've even got a couple who are interested at What's Your Game who are actually serving in the military.
Right.
We also have like the typical Dark Ages. We have a few people from the kind of the more sci-fi Nerf gunny kind of systems. There's bits in this game that attract everybody.
Yeah.
We're trying to be as inclusive as possible within the game. We're not pigeonholing ourselves to one region.
And you can see getting a big cross section then, which is quite unusual.
Yes.
And rather nice.
Yeah, because everyone loves tanks.
Oh yes.
Who doesn't?
Who doesn't love tanks?
Yeah.
And we just had tanks, and people just went tanks.
Yeah.
That reminds me, Rob. Do you remember the one joke that came up around the fire, and it said two fish in the tank, and one turned to the other and said, "How do you drive this thing?" But yeah, so I'm just trying to picture how do you deal then with the battles? I mean, how does that work?
Well, luckily they're kind of the driving experience for the tanks is led by Armageddon. They have that in a separate field and whatnot, so they take you through the ropes of how to drive and shoot and crew a tank for about an hour, and then they have basically a one-on-one kind of like Aces tank battle, because the FV-432s have basically a Fox-turreted paintball cannon which fires rounds about the size of ping pong ball sized paintballs at each other. So they have this kind of like set battle area and whatnot, and they have about 2 goes of this throughout the entire day, and so that kind of like has a knock-on effect to the rest of the game.
Yeah.
Right, so the plot kind of leads up to a battle with the tanks.
Yes.
The players get sort of a bit of training along the way beforehand, I guess, or
yes. Effectively, what they're doing is that they're playing around with the new R&D toys. So, they're sitting down with the technicians and going, "So this is how we think it works. Do you mind ironing this out for us and filling out a report?" And then suddenly, there's a skirmish not too far away. We need the new tanks in to kind of like even out the odds. So, would you mind sending the tank crew to go and fight? And then they do that. But the tank battles are kept in a separate field from the player fighting. We don't want people being hit with like ping pong ball sized paintballs from a cannon.
No. And I also had the thing, which I was somebody sort of trying to pick themselves up from underneath a tank thread. So
yeah.
Scuffed in the red tank thread.
As we said, the system is very rules light, but the amount of rules that we had to do for health and safety outweighed the amount of actual combat calls that we've ever had to written.
Dealing with, like I said, I think it said on the preamble that you're dealing with stuff that's meant to kill people.
Yeah. These things are not designed to be LARP safe. These things are ex-military, designed to kill people. They do. If you get run over with it, you will die. That's what the MOD kind of designed it for. So
Okay.
Wow.
So I'm just trying to get my head around. So we have you mentioned SV-432s, and I put up a few pictures of those. So these are like the big, chunky armored personnel carriers. You've got
Yes.
some with turrets on as well.
Yes, yeah. There's a fleet of 12 of them with Fox turrets,
Yeah.
and they've got one just an APC. And the APC we've actually got in the player field being used to ferry players from the camp to the furthest combat area, which is the big forest.
Oh, so you get ferried
Right.
around an APC as well. That's actually
Yes.
quite atmospheric.
Yeah. Yes.
That's very atmospheric.
The way we've got it is that the game is split in two. So you either sign up for a tanker ticket or a trooper ticket. Now the tankers are doing the tank experience and everything like that, and they have a more combat light kind of thing when they're on foot.
Yep.
Whereas troopers, they do the more kind of like standard LARP fighting, going off to the trenches and stuff like that. And for the further away skirmishes, like the plot-based stuff, we throw them in the back of one of the unturreted APCs and we drive them into the forest.
Wow. Right.
Wow, yeah. So you just lost me for words, which is rare.
Very rare for Rob. So I'm having a look at your website, and the more I look at it, the just more intrigued I am with this. Because I think I've said it before, and I'm quite happy to kind of admit this and concede this on air. Is that I've always been very focused as a LARPer,
Right.
and it's always been Tolkien-esque style LARPing. That's what I was brought up on, and kind of. So this has kind of put a little internal mushroom cloud that my whole mind just explodes. And I don't know whether I don't like it or whether I'm just intrigued on it or whether the fact that I just want to shoot Stuart with one of those cannons right in the nuts actually appeals to me a little bit more. I don't know. I don't even know where to start. I'm like a child in a candy store. But this is absolutely fascinating. So where is this held? Which part of the country is this held in?
This is actually just held outside of Leicester.
Right, okay. All right then.
So,
And
East
They sound
and
really easy to get to for most
Yeah.
people.
Yes. Yeah.
I was going to say that sounds pretty good. And when's your next event?
We're running one event for this year, which is happening in, I believe, the first weekend in July. I could be wrong about this, but if you go to the Facebook page, you'll see the events on the top of the forum and whatnot.
The event's 5th of July to the 7th of July. That's what I'm reading here.
But when we publish this, I think we'll get that on the page. People can see what they get all the links again and the date. So anything we say here is worth that we need to write down will get written down.
Yeah,
and posted. That's great.
What I love about this is on that page as well. It says if you're a student, you'll need to present your valid ID to God. I thought, well, you've included everyone else here as a character class. Why not God as well? And deal with religion at the same time, which I thought was absolutely marvellous. So, go on. Sorry, Rob.
That's okay. I was just going to say, I just want to try to get a few practicals in, if you don't mind.
Go for it.
So it's a camping event. Yep. There's tanks.
There is.
There's a real
the name.
There's a real mixed up costume and stuff going on, which is really intriguing. This is going to look great. And the combat then for the infantry, if you like that, we said before, that's Nerf.
Yes,
And,
it's specifically Nerf rival.
Yeah. So you'll explain to people why you're going for rivals.
So there's two kind of like design aspects of why we went for the rival. The first being is that they are much better for outdoor combat. The Nerf rival guns have a lot more punch. The bullet designs fly much better in outdoor kind of setting, and the way we were going about it was because we wanted to stick this as World War One. We were hoping to kind of go for the bolt action kind of rifles, and the rival range had a lot more in the kind of like the side bolt action kind of stuff. Even one of their recently spoiled guns is actually going for a full like Kar 98 style bolt action rifle, which is called the Jupiter, I believe.
I think there's a picture of that. It looks like a long weapon.
Yes, it does, and it looks the part for a World War One gun as well, which is exactly what we're looking for. We often find that we've run a system before with the standard Nerf guns, and we did that as a kind of like a day-long indoor one, but the bullets did not fly even with no wind in the room. So trying to have that as kind of like an outdoor game with accurate shooting, because of the fact that the one thing that we're going for in this game is that there's no calls and there's low hits and no kind of like in-fight rules to take into account. You literally have your hit count, the amount of stuff you can carry, and that's it. There is no calls in the system because we want to keep this as high immersion as possible. The only person that has any form of calls is the officer, and they have the kind of like the rousing speeches kind of calls as opposed to trigger word calls. Because what I always found in those kind of systems, the trigger word calls are very jarring and they're very immersion breaking. I like to be fully immersed in the system.
Oh no, I agree with that. Actually, when you're trying to have different combat worlds or different calls for different effects here and effects there, that effect and that effect, and I was like, whoa, hang on a minute.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
it is true. I recall when Stuart and I were at an event, and someone cast, and I've forgotten what they cast onto Stuart, and he went, "Great."
Yeah,
and yeah.
I have looked at systems that do the lengthy amounts of calls, and I'm like, I won't even remember a quarter of this. I don't want to turn up because I don't want to somebody to call their best call at me and just look at them and go, why? What does that do? Am I supposed to fall down? Am I supposed to run away? Am I supposed to freeze? What am I supposed to do in a situation? It's like, nah. Some of the best systems that I've ever played have been high immersion, no calls, low rules, and they keep me invested in the world as opposed to invested in the game. Because the one we wanted to avoid with this game is stat wars.
And sort of people try and do character stat builds that are just sort of impossible or unbeatable.
Exactly, yeah. You get people that are trying to do the whole min-maxing thing, and you get people who try to play the numbers and stuff like that. We don't want that in this game. We want the role play to benefit you more than the what numbers are on a sheet. And we have agreed with this game is that the better you role play, the more you'll get out of it. Especially within a group setting, because this is World War I kind of era. This is not I'm a plus 20 paladin and I can go and cut down entire hordes of goblins. You are soldiers in a war. So the everyone's kind of balanced in that fight.
Everyone's the same, everyone's a soldier, everyone's the same.
Yes.
I like that. I really like
that. That sounds really well thought out, actually.
Can I just go back to the nerfs quickly for a second?
Yeah.
So we're going revivals, which is nice. I quite like those.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going for any regulation on modding or alteration?
So for the first game, we are agreeing that there's going to be no internal modding, so no enhanced springs or anything like that, because we don't want to weigh in too much with the whole the chronograph or anything like that. But you can go for as many cosmetic mods or anything like that, extended barrels or stocks or kind of changing the shell of it to make it look like a more unique gun. But for the first game, definitely we're keeping it for stock only.
Stock only, cosmetic mods only, so maybe paint jobs, or like you said.
Exactly, yeah. We have heard some other games whereby it's very much pay to win, because some of the best fighters tend to have the £200-300 worth of Nerf gun that they've invested into it. And the other thing with this game is that we're keeping very much with the manual bolt actions as well, so that everyone's on the same playing field. We do have a couple of the more artifact weapons that you can kind of pick up in game, again through good roleplay or good playing of the game, that you can use on a short-term basis. But they're very much kind of if you use it, yes, it's going to be great on the field, but if you end up losing it, it's a big morale drop for the entire war effort.
Oh yeah.
You've effectively lost a relic of the old times. So it's high risk, high reward. But if you lose it, you've lost a lot more than just the gun.
I'd say you have, So that's good. That's
an amazing thing. So, how do we get in contact with you?
You can get in contact through Facebook. We've also got a wiki that you can find through the Larp book website, and in a whole other variety of ways. You can also find us at the upcoming LarpCon as well, in the promoters' pitches. If you want to come and have a lengthy talk with us about the system and whatnot and what it entails, because there is a lot that it entails. So the first event's early bird cut-off is coming up for the week after LarpCon. So if you want to get the best price for it, I'd say look into it in the next few weeks.
Okay, right.
LarpCon comes.
So get there as soon as you can, and let's see, the early bird's cut off just after LarpCon, yeah?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
That sounds amazing.
That sounds really, really good. Okay, I just want to check. You showed us how to get it. You tried to put the game. Tanks. Sorry.
It's fine.
Is there anything else you want to tell us? Think anything we haven't touched on at the moment?
Okay, so with the aesthetic, what we've tried to do is we've gone down the kind of like the World War Axis versus Allies, and we've tried to link what Dark Ages kind of factions you would put into the two sides, but without going for the very stereotypes. So for the Allies, the kind of like the Tommy Green kind of soldiers, you've got the medieval knights, the Celts/Picts, and the Vikings, and they're the kind of like the Allies side of things. So they're called the Kingdoms of Gul'dan. The other side of it is the Revaran Empire, who you've got the Romans are the predominants, along with Japanese and Persians / kind of like Ottoman Empire kind of era, and they're the Revaran Empire, and they've got the kind of like the very industrial greys and browns and all that kind of stuff. So they're very so two distinct sides with three sub-factions on each side. You also have other factions throughout the rest of the continent who you're going to be in negotiations with, because they all want a little piece of what's going on the front lines with the newfangled technology. So you get an awful lot of diplomats and all that kind of stuff coming through from various different regions. The other thing is that this isn't just a combat system. We do have two classes types, which are predominantly non-combat, which are the logistics and the surgeons. And of course, we are looking very heavily into big amounts of role play and big amounts of stuff to do with those two sides. But they do have the opportunity to go out into the kind of like the area of operations to do various bits of stuff, especially with the surgeon, because of course they're going to be ferried to the front lines to go and deal with like a field hospital or something like that. So there is a lot to do, even if you're not of the more fighting kind of variety.
So something for everyone.
Yeah,
exactly. We have tried to be as inclusive as possible with this game. We've tried to think of what possibilities and what combinations of factors would everybody be looking for into a game, and then try to include as much of it as possible.
That's great. Yes, it is. Really got to town on that idea.
Yeah,
that is.
Will you come back after you've done your first event and come and talk to us and tell us how it went?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Because that sounds as if it's going to be amazing. We're trying to keep in contact with everyone so that we introduce different types of LARP, and this is great because, like I say, I'd never have thought of this. And the fact that you've got out, you got out there and just thought, right now we'll just have everyone. We'll just do everything with everything to everything. It's a great thing, and it sounds quite an exciting project. So, wish you the best of luck for the first one that you do.
Yeah.
Thanks very much.
The photographs. I'm done, Rob. I think the problem with this kind of thing is you could carry on talking for years.
Oh yes.
I think we
everything. I think if
anybody does have any questions after the stream end, just post on Facebook. We'll try and sort something out with Luke for you.
Yeah.
And okay, so I think we'll call this an end. Luke, Tink, thank you very much. This has been great.
It's been a pleasure.